Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction, your local concrete experts. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. That's dpsconstruction.net. And yes, it's still here. Okay, my wife went and got some fingernail polish remover so this crap would go away. It's been like a week. Good Lord, hashtag girl dad problems. Life is good though. You know what? Do me a favor, smash that like button if you're like me and you like the fact that the Huskers get stronger as the game goes along, particularly on offense. Now, it'd be nice if we started the first half a little bit faster. In fact, you can hit the like button for that if you want that too. But the style of ball that we're playing is clearly more physical, okay? And I think it's also a direct result of the strength and conditioning staff doing a really good job and stepping it up from previous years. So hit that like button if you agree with me. But these are my top three takeaways from Nebraska football season so far. Ladies and gentlemen, we're through 4 games. That's a third of the season. It's time to evaluate, look back, and look at my top 3 takeaways, biggest takeaways from Nebraska's football season so far. And it's also a look ahead at the number 2 team in the country. They're going to welcome to Lincoln Memorial Stadium this Saturday, the Michigan Wolverines. Now, my first biggest takeaway is that we have 2 physically talented quarterbacks. We really do. We got to figure out how to maximize using them. Okay, who's our starter? How do we rotate them? Do we rotate them? Do we not? If Heinrich's the starter, does Jeff become one of our 2 running backs? Jeff Sims, because that could be fun. What about some trick plays? What about using him as a wide receiver? We need a deep threat. We need a big target beyond just Fedoni, beyond just Billy Kemp. You know, Heinrich can play receiver. Jeff can play receiver. Can somebody play running back? How do we utilize these guys? We have 2 talented quarterbacks. Who's the starter? What are we doing at the quarterback position first? And then how do we utilize the other guy who obviously has talents and we need some help just being a little bit more explosive on offense? Now, here's my thoughts on the quarterback so far, okay? As I read my notes, only one is taking care of the ball. Only one has started versus Power 5 teams as well, to be fair, okay? Haarberg is a little bit banged up, got some tightness, didn't finish the game Saturday, and also Sims is recovering, as we know, from his injury as well. Okay, now and I was going to go through and read all the stats to you, but I'll just kind of break it down for you, okay? Haarberg has actually thrown more passes, ran the ball more than Sims did, okay? Now, I don't know if that's because they trust Haarberg more. I don't know if it's because, Haarberg has played against, I don't want to say lesser competition, but lesser competition. What does that exactly do to? It would be nice to see more deep balls thrown downfield from either quarterback. It would be nice to see wide receivers getting open to give them that option, but it would be nice to see a higher completion percentage. Like at the moment, Heinrich is completing 51% of his passes, but in the run game, they're both dynamic. The thing that stood out to me, okay, one quarterback had 4 INTs and 1 touchdown pass. The other one had 4 touchdown passes, okay, and, no INTs. So taking care of the ball better, basically, is what has stood out to me. And I know the competition's been a little different. Okay, one quarterback is 2-0, one quarterback is 0-2. Okay, and it was interesting. When Rule was at his presser earlier today, he didn't announce who the starter is, and he said that's not gamesmanship. I'm not doing gamesmanship by not announcing the starter. And that was interesting to me, and I talked about this a little bit on 93.7 The Ticket, but I said I don't think it is gamesmanship either because the offense doesn't really change based on who's in there. So it doesn't make that big of a difference who the starting quarterback is if I'm Michigan trying to figure out what Nebraska is going to run, okay? I think it's multiple things. I think it's him protecting Sims because, as one of these things, because he has said Jeff Sims is our starter if he's healthy. Well, Heinrich has come out and he's played well. In my opinion, played better than Sims, albeit against different competition and the like, but I think he's kind of protecting Sims. I think it's also, how are these guys progressing in practice? How are these guys projecting when it comes to getting healthy? They're both dealing with some things getting a little bit banged up. And yeah, Mr. Allen Iverson, practice? We talking about practice? Yeah, practice matters here at the University of Nebraska, my friend. Okay, he wants to evaluate the injuries, health statuses. He wants to evaluate how they're doing in practices. Okay, and I think we got to find a way not only to figure out what do we do at the quarterback position, but how do we utilize both these guys in our offense? But that's my first biggest takeaways. We have 2 physically talented quarterbacks. How do we maximize their skill set? Number 2, on offense, we have an offensive identity. All right, we're not going to wow you or anything like that. We're not exactly explosive or anything like that. But here's what we are. We're going to hit you in the mouth, and we're going to hit you in the mouth, and we're going to hit you in the mouth. And we're going to do it for a couple of quarters, okay? And then we're going to keep doing it, okay? And we're going to see if you want to keep hitting us back in the mouth. I mean, in the second half of these games, Nebraska is averaging these last two contests, are averaging 21 points in the second half of those games. And it's interesting because those same two games in the first half, they're averaging exactly half that amount at 10.5 points. So we're literally twice as good in the second half as we are the first, statistically speaking. Okay. Now, I think things that we can do, I love that we have an identity. I love that it's physical, run the ball, smash mouth football. Things I think we can do to help open up and keep defenses honest, because they're going to start honing in even more and more than they already have, especially as the competition gets better. Okay, so for me, more option, but also more option looks. Now, you can do it out of the spread. You can do it out of the eye. You can run all sorts of different options. You can put a receiver in motion, use him as the pitch man. You can do veer option. You can do all triple option. Okay, I know Frost used to put the receiver in motion, use him as a pitch man. And then you can do fake option and all of a sudden hit the tight end down the seam. Think of Johnny Mitchell back in the day. Think of Matt Harrion with Jamal Lord in the early 2000s. Okay, that was something that was incredibly effective for Lord and Harrion as well. Okay, and to keep defenses balanced, I would just take a couple of shots. You got to take shots downfield. You got to show them that you're willing to take a shot downfield. And again, I mentioned this on the ticket as well, but I'm going to mention it here again. Don't throw it in the middle of the field. Okay, right now we're not a deep threat, deep ball team. That's where guys get blown up. It's also where you throw a lot of interceptions, especially with a lot of free roaming safeties in cover one that these teams like to run, or cover three. Throw it down the sideline on the outside shoulder of the receiver. So either he catches it or it goes out of bounds, or you get a PI. Okay, two of those three things are good, and one isn't necessarily that bad, but just show the defense that you're willing to threaten them down the field. Also, screens. Teams are going to start blitzing a lot more. Louisiana Tech was blitzing a lot more. Teams are not scared of the over-the-top threat, which is where the fake option with the tight end seam could work, which is just showing teams that you're willing to take a deep shot, whether it works or not, but also screens. Okay, screens can keep defenses off guard, and I know that screens can sometimes single-handedly be a defensive coordinator's biggest nightmare. I've watched defensive coordinators have nightmares. Okay, back when we played Texas Tech and Mike Leach, they didn't run the ball, they threw screens. When we played the Eagles, they threw all sorts of screens in lieu of other things, and that's how they kept teams balanced. So those are things that we could possibly do as well. Now, I don't expect Nebraska to be good at everything at once. I mean, even Colorado, setting the world on fire. Well, we forgot how to block. We forgot how to play defense. We forgot how to run the ball, and Oregon exposed us. Now, they beat us 36-14, so I'm not going to talk too much. What I'm saying is look at what Deion's done and how insanely impressive that is, and they've got holes all over their team. You can only do so much so fast. Okay, I like what Matt Rule has prioritized. Defense, special teams, smash mouth football, and obviously we've got other things we got to get better at. Okay. Now, again, starting by running the ball, being smash mouth, and stronger as the game goes along, that's our identity. And I don't know about you, but that works for me. Last week, we ran for 312 yards, averaged 6.5 yards per carry. And on the season, we're averaging 235 yards per rushing per game and 5.5 yards per carry, which is sixth in the country. All right, ladies and gentlemen, real quick, as always, thank you, the fans, for supporting the show. Thank you to our sponsor. Go show them some love if you're looking for some concrete work to be done. If you're a worker in this area, Jason Armstrong, DPS Concrete Construction, they are the employer for you. Diesel mechanics, CDL drivers, concrete finishers. All right, if you're looking for a good quality boss, if you're looking for good quality work to be done, check out dpsconstruction.net. Number 3. The third thing that stuck out to me the most so far is we play rock solid defense. Not perfect, but rock solid. Our defense is going to give us a chance to at least be in every game and have a chance to win every game. The number one rush defense in the country, giving up 1.8 yards per rush, 46.3 yards rushing per game. Tied for 11th in the country in sacks with about 18 other teams, it looked like when I looked them up. Okay, but we were number one in the country at one point. We had no sacks last Saturday. Okay, but we have 14 total on the season. In total defense, we're 23rd in the country, so that's top 25. We got to get, I mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again. We got to get better at pressuring the quarterback without blitzing. That will help our pass defense, which is giving up 252 yards per game, which is 101st in the country. Okay, but we are a sound physical defense that's going to keep us in the games and give us an opportunity to at least have a chance to compete and win against some of these better teams like Michigan. Also, it'd be nice to help out the offense and get a few more turnovers on defense, but I don't want to be too picky, so far. All right. We are definitely better in some areas, absolutely need to keep improving in other areas. Matt Rule's emphasis on physicality and toughness, he literally said in his presser today, toughness is a skill. It's not something you're born with, it's something you have to learn. Okay, and I love that. All right, now real quick, here's my early look ahead to Michigan. All right, rush offense, they're averaging 168 yards per game, 49th in the country. Pass offense, 238 yards per game, that's 69th in the country. Total offense, 405 yards per game, that's 60th in the country. Scoring offense, 32 points per game, that's 53rd in the country. I mean, they're one of the top teams in the country. And they play bully ball, and they're really good, but they haven't been tested or pushed. And the offense isn't exactly blowing people out of the water yet to this point. They haven't had to. Defensively, they're really good. Rush defense, 80 yards per game. They're allowing 12th in the country. Pass defense, 151 yards per game, 7th in the country. Total defense, 231 yards per game. That's 3rd in the country. Scoring defense, they're number 1 in the country, 5.8 points per game that they're allowing. Now, here's my thoughts and my early look ahead to Michigan. I will put out a video later this week where I give my keys to the game. My 6-year-old daughter is going to join me. As always, one of my kids join me. I'll give a prediction as well. Look for that later in the week. Here's my thoughts. Here's what I wrote. They haven't looked incredibly impressive so far. They haven't had to. They haven't played anybody. Okay, no disrespect to Rutgers and other teams they played. Rutgers has a better record than us, so all due respect to Rutgers. All right, J.J. McCarthy's completing 80% of his passes, but hasn't had to make big plays yet. They have possibly the best running back duo in the country in Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. Their defense looks better than their offense. Their defense looks legit. They're obviously big-time favorites. They opened as an 18.5-point favorite over the Big Red this weekend. Okay, my question is, how inspired will they be to play us Saturday? How inspired will they be to play Nebraska on Saturday? I have a feeling Memorial Stadium is going to be rocking. And honestly, the uglier and the lower scoring this game is, the better it is for us. Okay, if we can keep it close to halftime, if we can keep it close to the fourth quarter, you never know what can happen. I'm not saying we're going to win right here, right now. I'm saying the uglier, the lower scoring, and the more rocking Memorial Stadium is, and if we can get to halftime in the fourth quarter, you just never know. But I'll give my thoughts and my prediction later in the week. 3 questions for you fine folks at home. Hit me up in the comments below. Do you agree with my 3 takeaways? Did I miss any? Number 2, do you like Rule's approach to toughness? He's making a cornerstone of the program. Number 3, give me your way too early Michigan versus Nebraska score prediction. All right, as always, go to CarrikerChronicles.com. Check out John Johnson of Corn Nation, Connor Hayden of Corn Craze, Rob Zadiska, and so much more. All your football hopes and dreams will come true. Go Big Red Nose. Remember, throw the ball.